for the month of June, every single market that we had a significant increase in response from the month before, which is interesting because that happens with us. And then I see all these headlines saying that the buying season officially did not happen because there was not a massive increase in like the retail buying market like you typically expect for the spring and early summer. But apparently on the investor side, what is going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today is Wednesday. That means it is the Mike and Dan Show, where I, Mike DeHaan, and my co-host here, Dan Austin, talk about real estate investing and whatever else we feel like. And I'm doing good, Dan. Right off of a trip to Hawaii. It's always good to go there and unplug for a little bit. I say unplug, even though I was up at 5:30 a.m.
You didn't unplug
calls every day, but there's just something about the island
nice.
Lifestyle that's rejuvenating. Yeah, but it's funny. Yeah, Maui's such like a funny place now though, because I feel like it used to be, I'll say somewhere that's like kind of like super ritzy, which I think is still in some parts, but like the main tourist area you go to is just so commercialized now that it is just I'm not, you said it, not me, but it is now all walks of life compared to, I remember going there like 10, 15 years ago and it was like
Maui is like, if you go out to do things, how like the locals like that work at the places, like how much of it's just a totally different pace of life. Like when you go to the cash register and you're checking out, it's like beep,
oh dude,
30 seconds later beep, like they just move slow, like they're conserving energy.
Yeah, you know what I find is really funny there. So there's a my parents have a timeshare out there that they got like 25 years ago, back when like they first invented timeshares, and it's part of their like retirement thing is they go out there for like a month every year, and so we just go out there and crash with them, and in like the tourist area, almost all of the workers are like local people. That like bartenders, waiters, people at the hotels are all local people. My parents have found this restaurant that they really like to go to, which is kind of on like the other side of the island where people actually live. You go there, everyone working there is white people that are like younger,
really?
That obviously like live there and grew up there. So I'm like, are the hotels putting the local people in the hotel so that it feels more exotic, or like I don't know why it's like that.
It's like
a really
other
odd
places, which
observation.
Hawaii is not a third world country, but like a lot of those other places like Mexico, like they're very sought after jobs to be in the resort because like that's where the most money's to be made. So maybe they've just got they've got the native hookup and they know how to get in.
Maybe. Right. I mean, some of those people have been there forever though too. So like there's one of the bartenders at the hotel timeshare, whatever it is that we stay at, that's been there for 40 years working behind that same bar. That's freaking crazy.
Well, it's funny, what all the white people
I mean, when you're selling
at this other restaurant, they're just people that are trying to run into Brandon Turner. They all moved to Hawaii. They're like, I'm just trying to run into Brandon Turner.
That's definitely not true.
Yeah,
all these people were like 19. I definitely don't think that's the case. But I mean, God, why is that a thing though? It's such like a nauseating thing that we've.
So many people are like, I'm in Maui.
These people that are like want to be
moved here.
Yeah, and they're like hint. They're like tagging him on their posts. You know, they're like, oh, I'm at this beach. I think you were here once, like 2 months ago. You know,
creeps. That's funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. But no, it was good. It's funny. Every time I go somewhere like that, I have fun hanging out with my parents. And as I get older, it's something that I always, value and try to make time for. But tell you what, man, after a week, like on like an island like that, I get a little stir crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're so far from everything. And like at one of the days there was like a fire and it shut down like the one highway. And so like everything was just shut down. And I'm like, there's no like exit strategy or escape plan or anything here, and like, if you're there for like 2 weeks, you can do big. The entire island. Yeah. Right. You can do everything.
I was disappointed with their mountain biking when we were there together. I mean, it was pretty epic, but at the same time, that was it.
I mean, to be fair, no, yeah, but so like the mountain biking quality was terrible. The actual ride that we did down the back of the volcano was pretty freaking sick.
Not enough jumps, backflip. No, we weren't doing backflips or anything.
Yeah, but yeah, there's the single track was not built out very well, but that's
I know,
definitely because we're the only people that did it like that.
It was pretty rad, actually, to say we've done that.
Yeah, it was super cool. But yeah, anyways, it was, always good to step away and see the business operating, and it's been pretty hectic as we've been going through the, I guess the first half of the year, finishing out pretty solid. But yeah, I mean, I think every single market is churning and we're closing deals right now. We don't really, everything had like an increased response rate from the previous quarter. We're talking about that with our instant investor mastermind group as well, about how like literally for the month of June, every single market that we had a significant increase in response from the month before, which is interesting because that happens with us. And then I see all these headlines saying that the buying season officially did not happen because there was not a massive increase in like the retail buying market like you typically expect for the spring
a bunch
and
of
early
properties
summer.
For sale.
But
there wasn't a
apparently
bunch
on
of
the
listed
investor
properties,
side,
though. Like if you think about it, like when I look at my neighborhood, and I don't live in a very big neighborhood, but there's one house for sale right now.
Yeah, that's true. Well, then like all the, news headlines stuff like that are talking about still how we have low supply everywhere, whatever that means. But they always say that we have low supply compared to historic times. But I mean, when that historically low supply has been going on for 3 years, do we still call it low supply?
Or is it just market norm?
It's just the new market norm, maybe, as because everyone always talks about the affordability of the real estate market. Well, what's going to keep the supply low? People not being able to afford other places to live.
Yeah, we're in we
so
talked about this before. Like this, it's kind of on the retail side, it's a stalemate in some senses, and it's because people the average person hasn't figured out how to exit their low mortgage. Because, I mean, let's be honest, if you were to go out and sell your house right now, what would you be moving into? Would you be moving into an equivalent, or to get your same house, would it cost you more right now? Right, it cost you a lot more. So you have to be in a downgrade situation where you are seeking to downgrade, but you're also still getting less for the value. Assuming you have an interest rate anywhere below 5%, which most people do. And so it's kind of tough. And a lot of people took this last run up, this last 3 or 4 years during COVID to maybe shift and move early into something that they wouldn't have otherwise done right away just because of circumstances, but also because of historic low interest rates. People were also able to refinance, remodel their homes, refinance and buy the car that they always wanted that they shouldn't have bought, do whatever. And so now they're kind of in place, and it's maybe accelerated some of that would have otherwise taken 5 or 10 years. And of course, we all know baby boomers aren't moving anytime soon because they've got, $15 trillion in wealth, and they're not ready to shake that loose yet.
Exactly. Yeah, they're not moving, and millennials aren't moving because most of us don't have any money or income, I guess. Allegedly, although I feel like we know quite a few people that are doing well, but I also know
I don't know. It's kind of tough. It's all about who you surround yourself with, I guess. And I try not to surround myself with those people.
Yeah, and I know, same, right? But one of the things I think is super funny is I still always see these articles about how the supply, and I see this all the time, supply is super low because of like investors and like sort of things, like people posting this stuff on Facebook, how they're buying up like all the good houses. You want to know one of the worst places for people to be like big investors trying to seek yield? Like one of the worst places they'd be looking right now with bank rates is residential properties. Like with how expensive money is, I promise the supply is not low because investors are going and getting loans and buying all these properties. They could be buying it for cash, but even then, just with current rates, rental rates versus property prices, the yield isn't that good for most people, in most markets. So it's definitely not that's driving it up. I think that's keeping the supply low. It just really comes down to, people not wanting to move, people not being willing to separate from their living situation. And And I think that's also too why it's so important to make sure that you're establishing your own pipeline of opportunities and that you're marketing to those people that are potentially going to have a reason to move, which is what we do when we market to people that have recorded bankruptcies, liens, vacancies, getting divorced, stuff like that. Because that's what I was alluding to at the start was even though the retail market is down, according to the news, we never did have the buying spree. For all intents and purposes, on our end, stuff has just been picking up aggressively. And that should be an indicator there, right, of where should you be looking? Should you be looking at the mainstream market where apparently no one's listing anything, or should you be going directly to people that
you're absolutely right. There's definitely off market seems to be pretty awesome right now. We've got closings happening every week for the next several weeks, so it's definitely going well, and you just have to get out there and find them. And looking when there's not a lot for sale, you're not going to be able to find anything on MLS regardless, and the deals just aren't there. You can find maybe one or two here and there once in a while, but that's not how you build a business. That's not how you build wealth, is by basically hoping and praying that a deal will come by that you can establish yourself upon. So
exactly. Yeah, eventually you have to take the reins into your own hands if you want to for sure actually get anywhere with it. But I don't know, that, if you want to do work, though, people that want to do work. So yeah, right. We can get you started. No, it has been cool though, because we've also, that's the other thing too, as that started to go, we've had several of our instant investment
getting some people with their first contracts, some people with some big wins. There's been a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, we have several people talking about leaving their W-2s as well, which is always fun if people are starting to be comfortable enough to make that step. And then we have everyone getting ready for Keys Con that we're planning here in Scottsdale at the end of September, beginning of October, which will be our first in-person meetup, where we're gonna have hopefully 10 people come out and do a 2.5 day workshop with us in Scottsdale. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely hit us up too. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I like going down there for that sort of stuff because it's so easy to find decent residences for actually a good price. That's the problem when they're like, oh, we're gonna do a meetup in I don't know, Vail or somewhere like that. It's just so expensive and it's hard to get to. But because someone decided many years ago that Scottsdale was going to be where every bachelorette party went,
that is the only trouble about Scottsdale. Looking at some of the properties that we're looking to book, is a lot of them are surprisingly set up just for bachelorette parties. They're sick houses, but then the decor is all bachelorette focused, and you're like, okay, dang it, this might not work. We have men and women in the group.
I mean, that's right. We're just mostly just dudes, so it's fine. But yeah, outside of that, I think what else do we have going on?
I'm super pumped for the launch of Threads when Facebook launches this soon. As this episode airs, you'll have been able to sign up for it. Another social platform for me to manage.
This is just like the competing with Twitter.
Because
why though? No one needs this. No one's going to use it. It's going to be what was the Google social media thing?
Oh, was it Hangouts?
You remember that?
Was that it, or is that a different one?
No, I think Hangouts is the video calling that they do. But they used to have Google
I definitely didn't sign up for that.
Or Google My Face or something. I don't know.
More data, more users, more advertising space. That's probably why they do it. And I think that the lizard,
they shut it down.
I mean, that's the goal for everybody. Thinks that they need to be in the space, right? It's does everybody need to be in the cell phone space? Microsoft sure thought they did. Yeah. And then they paid I don't know how many billions of dollars for Nokia, and then that didn't work. Shit. So, yeah, I don't know, but I think it's because of the lizard, and I don't know what what's Elon's nickname. I don't know. He needs one because everybody calls. Haven't you seen those things about Mark Zuckerberg being like a lizard or some shit? Yeah.
Well, because he's got those really black eyes like a lizard and a completely soulless expression. Yeah. But yeah, because they're having their
the most
big
disgusting
fight here soon,
thing
which is going
that you could ever want to see.
Have you seen that Chinese guy that looks exactly like Elon Musk? You haven't? Oh, dude, I'll have to find this video.
It's on par for China. They just ripped off. They even rip off our billionaires
on my stories. No. Dude, no. So there was this video, and it's like basically a boxing match going on in whatever country. I'm assuming they're in China, but it's like this dude that looks exactly like Elon Musk, but is freaking like thick and is huge, fighting this dude that looks exactly like Mark Zuckerberg. It's freaking weird, and like it might be AI actually, like with their faces.
Right,
I don't know,
up.
but.
Oh shit, he does look like him.
The thing is that so
Elon Musk does kind of have like I don't know, like squinty eyes, like not to be offensive, but like yeah, okay. Oh my god, this guy does.
He has like an atypical facial structure for like a white guy. But it's just such a thing. But the thing that's fascinating to me is how much people get caught up in that sort of stuff. When it's just like you're gonna have these billionaires that are like out of shape. Well, I guess Mark Zuckerberg does like jujitsu now at like a decent level, but they like decide they're gonna do this whole thing like they're freaking YouTubers, like Logan Paul. All of a sudden, like that is that like is that Elon Musk's person he looks up to is Logan Paul. He's like, I want to be like that guy. Start challenging other YouTubers to boxing.
If our listeners want to pony up enough, I'll fight Mike on live TV. I don't care. Do it.
God, yeah, right. That way we can have 3 people watch it. That'd be so great.
Let's go roll, dog. Come on. We gotta start training. We're gonna have a fight. That's what we're doing in Scottsdale, actually.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming in to fly in to learn about real estate and watch Mike and I fight.
It's gonna be the final event at KeysCon. We're gonna have a big boxing match. Yeah, well, it's actually gonna be like Fight Club. It's rule number 1: if it's your first time, you have to fight. That's everyone's first time. So it's so stupid. But so aside that though, it's funny. We're in an interesting place right now with the business, just because we've brought in so much staff and so many systems that it's like learning the management of everything has been such a challenging endeavor. Which we've grown so quickly too, and one of the weirdest spots when you have a growing business, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm sure other people do, is when you end up with these like miscellaneous tasks that don't fit into anybody's job description. And when 20, 30 miscellaneous tasks need to happen on like a regular basis. It's just like, who does that work? I don't know. So you find like a random VA to do some of it.
I don't know, because then it's like, how do you come up with a job title for that?
Yeah.
And like, and then also be like, oh, by the way, it's going to change probably week to week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Well, it's going to change week to week, but then also too, it's going to be like sort of have so many different skill sets and things that are required with it too.
Yeah, that is a tough situation. It's like I would compare it to when you're flipping a house and you're remodeling it. You're like, who puts the mirror on the wall? It's not the electrician. It's not the guy that did the floor. It's not the painter. Like, who does it? Like, you have to have a trim out person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they do all like the hardware, right? The doorknobs, the the towel racks, right? All that sort of stuff. The hardware on the kitchen cabinets, whatever it is. So you get a handyman in there to do that. Maybe are they going to be like delicate enough to do it good, or are they going to just completely screw up your whole flip by doing it so poorly?
Yeah, and the listeners will know that it's a challenge if they're the ones going in and doing it, because everybody has had that point in their career of flipping or renovating houses where the contractor's gone and you're like, oh shit, I guess I need to do this because nobody's going to do it. Like, who do I find? So that same thing with business. When you're on the back end, you're like, okay, I've hired a salesperson, but now who's going to do this thing that's not really sales, but it's in the sales department?
Exactly. Yeah, which, is like some sort of like follow-up process or some sort of like checklist or things like that. And it's like you give it to them, but it kind of goes outside the scope. And the stuff that we usually tend to find.
That's a good point. We should schedule an appointment. Actually, we already have one on the calendar. I was going to say we should talk to our coach Steve about this.
On Tuesday,
we're having a live conversation here. We'll report back to everybody with what he says.
Yeah. It's just it's just funny. But like, because when you have a giant company, this is why giant companies have so much redundancy and they have so many people that bitch about going to work and working for 1 hour every single day and then doing nothing. It's because you're literally intended to work that 1 hour every day. Like, honestly, they had this small gap that they decided that they could budget $50,000 to $70,000 a year to have done, and you're that square peg that's going in there.
Totally, you are the square. You're the square peg. No, you're right though, because like especially if you're in a publicly traded industry or a company is like, and there's maybe typical profit margins of 12 to 14% or whatever it is for that industry and that company, and so the expectation is that, and so as long as the CFO can make sure that you're getting 12 to 14% return on your investors' money, they're going to be able to hire people and plug them in to be super lazy, because now you're at industry standard, and once in a while you pop off an 18% year, woohoo, and then everybody gets big bonuses. But everybody, even the C-suite, are incentivized just to coast and ride it out.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. As we've gotten into this, you sort of realize how funny it is with business, and then looking back, like how many big businesses, they saw this with Twitter when he took over, and it's like how much bloat they had in there that they didn't need. That exists in every single business out there that's even remotely that size, which kind of comes with the territory too, because also too, I can say that from our experience, you kind of end up with people after a while that aren't really filling the needs of your company anymore, but they do like their couple of tasks and you keep them around, but then you're like, we probably like could fire them and have someone else do their tasks, but you kind of like the person, like they're not hurting anything, they bring some culture,
right?
Yeah. And next thing you know, it's been like a year.
Well, and that's, I think, on us, and like for us, like in a smaller business, is like, okay, it's time to reevaluate your position. Is like, what can we help you do? Because you also might hire somebody, especially if it's in like a situation where you're like building out something or building something. Once that thing's built and you move to operating that thing, that person who built it may not be an operator. They may not like that. They may want to leave the company or find something else within the company to build. And you want to be able to provide that to them, because there are like two different types of people. There's people that like to manage existing systems. There's people that like to create systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's people that fit in small systems, people that fit in larger systems, and people that are in between. I think that's something else too that people don't always talk about with small business is, I see this advice go around for hiring of like, if you don't, you need to like be hiring people for like long term. That's what a lot of people will talk about is how you don't, have like long term view with people. But if you have a rapidly growing business, it's highly likely the person that you hire when you're a team of 4 is not the same person you're going to need when you're a team of 20. Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen this same iteration. I think we talked about this before too. We were going through our Slack and all the people that we've had, like 40 something people that have been in the team, and just under 4 years, like that's freaking crazy. But also too, you can look back on the team members that we've had, and I don't think there's anybody that is no longer on the team that I'm like, man, they would fit in so well right now. Honestly.
Yeah. Like you miss them. You're like, oh no, whoops, that was a bad one. Yeah. I don't think so. Yep. You're absolutely right.
Every single one. They kind of phase out when it doesn't make sense anymore. No. But it's people, for some reason, I don't know if it's like a loyalty thing, they don't like to understand there's going to be turnover. Same when it comes to people's investments. I always hear people say that like, if you don't want to keep it forever, don't buy it. It's like, that's such a freaking immature way to look at stuff. Honestly.
Yeah, I don't think that's very valid at all, because like you need to. I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. Like there's nothing in our portfolio we're ready to keep forever.
Totally. No way. I mean, eventually you're going to run into CapEx items. Your return on equity is going to be super low. You're going to have other opportunities. And unless you're somebody that like literally your goal is to buy a bunch of assets and then just freaking coast and do nothing, sure. Then maybe you want to keep it forever. But I promise you'll regret your decision after, 10 years, probably less than that.
If it's definitely real estate, for sure.
For sure, right? But, people say that about stocks. People say that about real estate. People say that about everything. But if you're somebody that actually has any sort of ambition, you have to understand like the short-term value, the middle-term value, and the long-term value of something that you expect. And there's always like a little bit of speculation when you look long-term. But if you don't have any sort of idea what those are, then you probably need to do some self-reflection on like your whole financial picture and figure out what you actually want.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's tough too. That's challenging. I was actually just having a meeting with my GoBundance GoPod about that, like going over my one sheet, which for those of you that don't know, like that's where, in GoBundance, a big part of it is setting your goals out. Like what are your goals, from financial goals to relationship goals, all that sort of stuff. And like, honestly, determining like where you want to be financially, like it's easy to say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, but why? Like what is driving you towards that? And what about that being a millionaire are you trying to get at? And then you might realize, well, maybe I don't need to be a millionaire to accomplish goal X, Y, or Z, And so there's just a lot of different things that you think about, and like understanding your investment goals and your whys is really key. And they change, and being okay with them changing and adapting over time.
Yeah. It's very insightful. It sounds like you had some good self-reflection on your one sheet. Would you like to share with the audience, Dan?
Well, it's just one of those big things, like talking about I'll tell you one of the things that I'm not like super happy with, and I shouldn't say super happy with. Like one of the things that my initial goal from this year, I have not reached, and I have not been on track. If you just looked at face value of the goal, which is increased passive income, well, that's okay, right? Because we have been significantly increasing our active income through our business. And because of that, we haven't been able to, as a partnership, balance increasing our active income at like a percentage of that, right? Or our passive income at a percentage of that. Like it's just the focus has not been on that. And then if you look at it again at face value, it's like, well, why was your goal that? Okay, this is why my goal is. So is that still pertinent, or is that being accomplished in a different way?
Yeah.
And it goes back to a lot of people believe they need to, if they want to leave their W-2, and I was one of these people too, that you need to completely replace your active W-2 income with passive income before leaving, which is not true.
Yeah, it's not true at all. And that's what I always challenge with that. That goes back to what I've been preaching, I guess, for the last few months, is like focusing on making massive income over passive income. Because I will honestly say that it is easier to make $1 million, which, if you make $1 million, you probably can give yourself enough financial stability to leave your W-2 job. It's easier to do that than it is to replace a decent W-2 salary. I mean, if you're making like 40 grand a year, you can replace that. If you're making like 150 grand a year, that's a lot harder to replace. $15,000 a month or whatever that is. It will be easier for you to make $1 million in revenue, several $100,000 plus in profit than it will be to replace that with passive income.
Totally.
Unless you're buying like a sick Airbnb in the Smokies, dude. Then all you need is 2 cabins. Then it's easy.
Yeah. God damn it. Well, on this thread though, like the same conversation is like, okay, so say you focus on what Mike calls the massive income, and you're actively working in something active, like a wholesale business, a flipping business. I don't care what's another active business, a car wash. You own a car wash, which I guess could be arguable passive.
Wash windows. I paid someone $340 to come wash my windows today.
And I guarantee you that wasn't I guarantee you didn't initiate that, did you?
The washing windows?
Yeah. Were you like, I really want my? Did you?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, these windows are disgusting. I'm in a construction neighborhood still, dude.
I know. Well, I just think about that because my wife does the same thing with I never look at the window and go, these need to be cleaned. I just don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I 100%.
If I'm looking out the window, I just go outside and I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful out here. Anyhow, what was I saying? Okay. So you have a window washing business. Whatever it is, that's your active income. Maybe you're doing it as a side hustle, and you take all that income and you kind of save it up as your capital bucket, and then you go and put it into a lending business or whatever you want to do that's really passive, like what you and I do with some of our excess like holdings that we have in cash. And I'm like, this is pretty sweet. And yeah, there's some risk with lending, but if you are able to underwrite the folks well enough, which we do, if you're in the industry, you meet people, you start seeing who the big players are, who the players that you can trust, who the players that operate the way you would operate, that you can know, like, and trust in the long term. And then all of a sudden you're getting super passive income off of large active income. And so if you were able to make $100,000 and put it into like a fund, like basically what we do, we created our own fund, we put it in there, we pay ourselves a preferred rate just to ourselves, right? I mean, that income is a lot more fun because you're like, dude, like it just shows up.
Yeah,
you didn't think about it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to do anything. And also too, if you can figure out how to hustle and make yourself a large chunk of money, that's going to be probably significantly larger than it's going to be if you're you go throw that into like a fund or something like that, than it will be if you go and save up and scrounge up and do all these properties and different things, which people spend like a decade doing that, staying in a W, trying to be reserved. It's like, no, just if you focus on making real money and then invest all of that super, super heavily, and it could be in properties too, if that's what you want to do, but that will take just like a little bit more work, but it comes with that. But you can replace your income relatively quickly. I mean, $1 million, if you're able to put it into a fund where you're getting paid out 10%, which is not uncommon, that's $100,000 a year right there.
For sure. How do you get to $1 million?
Well, that's always a key question, right? That's why, if you flip 20 houses and make 50 grand in each one, you can do that. If you wholesale what would be 40 houses for $25,000, see, that's what's freaking doable right there. You say it like that. A $25,000 fee on 40 wholesale deals, that is so much easier than flipping 20 houses to make $50,000 on each one, honestly.
Totally.
And that's always why I sort of push people in that direction, because the velocity of money is so high.
Yeah. It's like, should I flip? Should I wholesale? It's like, I definitely think there's value in flipping houses, but there's a lot more value in wholesaling if you can run that business and operate it and keep money flowing as opposed to like being stagnant, And there is some art to learning the rehab systems and all that sort of stuff. It takes some time. But certainly that's why I kind of asked that question, right? It's like, how do you get to $1 million? You could totally get to $1 million and then set that up to buy properties. And I think the conversation, especially right now, is important because you and I, we still buy properties. Like, it's not like we're saying don't buy properties and that passive income is not worth it. And by the way, I think what it is that little bit of passive income per property is just not the most important thing. The equity buildup, the debt pay down, the leverage, all that is the important thing, where we all get locked in on, I need to get $200, $300, $400 per door and get 100 doors so I can, make this much money. That's just one piece of the equation. But if you can understand that just getting more active income instead of just focusing on passive income in a time like now, where it's harder for the average person to get a deal, especially if you don't have a pipeline built, a wholesale pipeline that you're doing, then you'll make more progress than if you just sit on the sidelines, which is what a lot of people do. So get out there, create an active business, a wholesale real estate business, market direct to sellers, wholesale a shit ton of properties, and be ready to make passive income when you have a bunch of wealth.
Exactly. And if you don't want to do like something in real estate, like those service business we talked about as well too, are one of the easiest ways to do it. So I just did the max. So I paid that guy $350 to come and wash my windows. He did have a partner with him, so he was able to do a little bit quicker. But he was here for under an hour. And so if he did 10 of those houses a week and did that every single week for the whole year, it's $182,000.
Jesus.
That's 10 houses a week. I feel like that's definitely doable.
That's very doable. And that's not even including if you picked up like a commercial account that wants you to do their windows once a week on a regular basis.
Exactly. And then you go and you hire someone to come and work for you and you pay them $60,000 a year, which is pretty dang good for a window washer. Right. And you're making $120,000.
And I don't know who your guy is, but the guy my wife brings in, he's busy. I can't remember how many houses he says he does, but he does commercial accounts too. But I think he was saying he does like, I don't remember what it was. It was like 5 to 10 houses a day, somewhere in that ballpark, where I was like, that's hard. That's like, and he says he works 7 days a week. Yeah. I was like, that's like
he's making money, dude.
He's making good money doing window cleaning.
So let's say you were this 10 houses a day, you said?
It was a number, I can't remember. It was somewhere between 5 and 10. Like, and I remember it being enough where I was like, how do you physically like drive around and do all, like I was trying to do the math in my head because like our house, I think he was here probably a total an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Cause he's got to get up kind of high on some of these windows. And so like, I was like, if you did that 5 houses, 10, and I was like, okay, it was pretty tough math.
So if you look at, say, just $300 per house, which I think is totally doable for 5 a day, and he does that for 300 days out of the year, that's $450,000.
Yeah, he's doing it. And his biggest supply is water.
What's that? Water,
water, like water and like a little bit of soap.
And I mean, honestly, in gas, so that's probably his biggest expense outside of his own labor. Yeah. I mean, that's good. The tax man will take a good chunk of that because it's all active income. But either way, that's replacing.
If you invest it in real estate, take your excess income, invest it in real estate, and get the depreciation, tax benefits.
There you go. There you go. And then back to get involved in the real estate community, you can go and get connected with realtors, and you go clean all the windows of all their listings so their house looks nice and pretty.
Honestly,
like that's
dude. Find your own. You ready to start cleaning windows, bro?
Yeah, we'll launch a new business right after this. Yeah, right. Right between our door hanging company. If anything, that's the kind of like boring business that Cody Sanchez talks about all the time, right? There's nothing sexy about that except for the checks that you're going to cash at the end of the year.
Yep. Right. And the systems are easy to build out.
Yeah, very, very easy.
Okay. So
cool. Right on. Well, I think that's all we got today, guys. So thanks for listening. If you enjoy this show, please share it with anybody who might also enjoy it. You should also hit us up on Instagram and ask us about our group coaching, our mastermind program that we have. Because that way, if you get signed up, you can make it out to KeysCon at the end of September. But yeah, we have some folks in there that are really making some awesome waves. There's no reason you can't come and be one of them. We already have several people that are set to make close to $500,000 this year off the deals they're doing.
Legit.
And these are people that were relatively green at the beginning of the year, and now their entire life is going to look different moving forward because they made that decision to come.
Single decision changed their life and their children's life. And their children's life.
You can find information about that at collectingkeyspodcast.com, or you can hit me up at Mike_invest on Instagram, or you can have Dan too at InvestManDan, but I'm way more fun than he is. Anyways, guys, yeah, right. Check us out there, and besides that, I appreciate you all, and we'll talk to you all next week.
See ya.